there too?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Kim. How are you doing?
Good and good.
Okay. All right. Well, let's turn it over to you two then and take it away.
Okay, well, I did exactly what I said I was going to do, and I got my book out. It was Kemi that kept all the copies of all the emails that I had sent home, and so we I went through a bunch of those. It would take me a year to go through all of them, I think, but I went through a bunch and picked out a few of them that I thought you might be interested in. I did find the part that I had written down when the girls were passing the sacrament, and I was going to share that with Lisa, but if she's not on, it says that they were in they had pictures of them in the new era is what it was, and it showed a man in the front passing the sacrament, and then across the room on the other side of the picture was the girl, and the mission president, I remember, just was having a fit. That picture made it all the way to Salt Lake and ended up in one of the church magazines. We had there were a couple of things that came up that I didn't remember, and I guess that's why we keep journals and emails, is because so that we do remember all of these. We have it. One of the emails talks about the one of the elders' bikes getting stolen, and Kim went down and bought him a new bike so that they could both go work together, because when we were passing him, one was running along beside and one was on his bike. So we fixed that for him, and then we got in trouble for it because the mission president said we weren't supposed to be doing that kind of stuff. Then we went up to a little home. There was a home sacrament meeting. The mission president had given the family permission to hold a home sacrament meeting. It was clear up in the mountains. It was a beautiful little place. And we went up there to meet with them to see their home sacrament meeting. And when we got there, there were about 35 people outside this building, and it was no longer a home sacrament meeting. The man that was holding it in his home had taken it upon himself to call a Relief Society president and a primary president and a young women's president, and they had a full board branch going on. So we were going to report back to the mission president the next day and see what he wanted to do about him. And then there was, I just want to read you this part because I probably can't say it any better than what it was originally written. It said that we had a young man that was waiting for a mission call, and he had sent his papers in 5 months ago. And we had gotten a call from Nairobi that he was that they had his mission call, and they were going to send it up to us so that we could take it to him. And I made the mistake of telling him that it was on its way, and that when I saw him on Tuesday, but it wouldn't be delivered to us until Thursday. No phones, and he lived in a different town, and there was a mix-up in the communication. He had been going to the church every day and waiting for us to show up. And so it says that he said, "Since I talked to you," and this is just a quote from him, okay?
Hello, Jim.
He says,
hello.
Jim's on. Anyways, he said, is Jim there? So he said, "Since I talked to you, I have not eat, I have not sleep, and I pray all day that you be safe in your travels to bring me my letter from the prophet." And then he said, "You read it to me." He said, "I am so scared I can't read it." And so he was going, his mission call came and he was going to Durban, South Africa. And that was a pretty cool thing for him. But he every day had been going down to the church and waiting for us to show up with this mission call for him. His letter from the prophet, he said. Another thing that I had forgotten about, and I'm kind of thinking maybe I need to revisit this. There was a really cool place in just outside Nairobi that was called Kazuri. And in Swahili, the word Kazuri means we are all fine. We are all fine. And it was a bead shop where they made beads. They actually rolled them and baked them and hand painted them, and they made beads and made them into necklaces, into jewelry, and they would sell them. The lady that set it up was from England, and she had set it up for the women there that had no husbands and had no or were single moms or were divorced women and that had no way of taking care of themselves. And so she had a compound there, and the women all took turns. So they took turns watching the children, they took turns making the meals, they took turns doing the laundry, they took turns making the beads and all the different things that they were doing, so that these women could live there independently and take care of themselves. The men had tried several times to take that entire business away from them, and this lady from England had it so airtight that they couldn't get it away from them. One of my things when I came home was that I wanted to bring some of the Kazuri beads, and they made plates and all kinds of things, and I wanted to bring those home and start a business here where we could sell them for them. And I was reading that, I'm like, I still need to do that. That would be a fun thing to do. I could still get in touch with him. I was going back through these different emails and found the one where where we had had the wreck, and where the mission president had called me the next day, and I had forgotten what he said to me. But when we had taken the elders up to Lake Victoria, and Elder Hale, who was brand new to the mission, was a senior couple from Preston, and in fact his house was used in that movie. What was that movie?
Superstar.
No.
Dynamite.
Oh, yes, thank you. Napoleon Dynamite. His house was most of that movie was filmed in his house. So he had just gotten there, and he had hit a kid on a bicycle up at Lake Victoria, and he said to us, do we need to wait for the cop? And I said, no, we waited 4 hours 2 days ago and they never showed up. And so Kim said, just give him some money and let's go. So we gave him some. The next day when the mission president called, he said, because of that accident and the next one, he said, Sister Andress, do we need to put you in a bike area? And I said, President, it wasn't our fault. And he said, all the missionaries say that. So I guess he just treated us like one of the missionaries. We had rats in Kenya that were the size of small dogs. I mean, they were monstrous animals. And if there's one thing, I'm not afraid of spiders, I'm not afraid of snakes, I'm not afraid of anything, but I hate mice and rats. I hate them.
Big rats.
Especially rats that are, yes, large rats. And the elders had gotten one in their house and they couldn't get rid of it. So we suggested to them that they go get some poison. So they put some poison out, and the poison just made them ill. And they were ill.
Diarrhea.
Oh, the rats had been sick, diarrhea and throwing up all over their apartment. It was horrible. And and so they had actually moved outside and had kind of given the apartment up to the rats for a while. But I had one rat that I think had my name on it. He was huge, and we were teaching a family, and we were telling them the Joseph Smith story. And you know, you've got that one moment, you know, you've got that one moment to let that spirit come across, and just as they start teaching the Joseph Smith story, this rat comes running across the floor right in front of me. Stopped just right in front of my chair, and just turned and sat there and stared at me. And I looked over, and one of the elders that was from Salt Lake, Elder Silcox, just kind of put his hand up and was like, easy, you know. And I was breathing deep and trying to, and then he kind of started to move on. I thought, oh good, we're done. And that rat took a 90-degree turn, went straight up the wall where I was sitting, got right eye level with me, and turned and stopped. I mean, he was staring me right in the face, and it was all I could do to keep from screaming. But I just tried to ignore him, tried to breathe deep, and about the moment I thought I couldn't take it another second, he made another 90-degree turn, went straight up the wall and out over the top of the wall, and he was gone. And the elders who had watched this whole thing, Kim had his back to me, so he didn't know what was going on. We all got finished, went out to the car, and one of the elders turned to Kim and said, Elder Andrus, great job with the Joseph Smith story, you did. And then he turned to me and he goes, Sister Andrus, you did amazing. And Kim looks over and he goes, what'd she do? I kept my cool and didn't destroy the spirit as the mouse from hell was staring me in the face. We had the mission president used to call us. I think I may have told you this one last time. If I have, just ignore me. Anyway, the mission president used to call us in the phone, and he'd say, Sister Andrus, and then there was that same pause all the time. And he would say, you're still in your car. And I'd say, yes, sir, because we had a diesel pickup, so you could hear it run. He could hear it running. And he'd say, it's dark. You're supposed to be home. Call me when you get home and we'll talk. And so he would just, and so the minute we get home, I'd call him, because we were breaking rules and not supposed to be out after dark. I had this one lady that spoke Swahili, and what they made sure that the mission rules were that it was an English speaking mission. And so the people that were baptized were supposed to be able to answer the interview questions in English. And that became a problem. Part of it, I understand the whole reasoning behind it, because the people that could speak English were a little more educated. They were a little more progressive. They had a tendency to be a little more honest, and so they were, so we taught this group, and she was one of the ones that was in the group, and she wanted to be baptized so bad. And so she asked me, and I had learned enough Swahili by that time that I could understand her. And so every week we would show up there, and she would take me outside and she would beg. She would just beg and beg and beg. Can't I please be baptized? I want to be baptized. And so I went to bat for her with the mission president, and I said, I said to him, is there a huge difference between changing the rules and breaking commandments? And he said, it sounds like mission president said, "It sounds like, Sister Andress, whatever you're thinking about, you already feel guilty about." And I said, "I do, but I think it might be worth it." And so I explained to him what was happening about this lady that wanted to be baptized. And he said, I'll allow this one. And so she was able to be baptized. But then it caused a whole avalanche of other people wanting the same thing. And but it was that was a very rewarding thing to me, because she had been so diligent, coming to meetings and walking to church 20 miles every day, and a one way in the rain. And it was just, she was an amazing little lady. And then after that, we had an older man that wanted to be baptized. He was, and he had the same problem. His wife had been baptized because she was much younger, and she spoke English, and so she was baptized, and he wasn't. And I didn't dare go to the mission president again, because he had told me that he was giving me a one-time shot here. And so in Kenya, once you're baptized, and then you if you want to change religions, they give you a paper that said you've been baptized, and you just take your paper to the next place. If you get upset with the church and you want to change churches, you just take your baptismal paper to the next church, and they accept it. And so he had been baptized, and he had the paper, and I felt so bad for him. I wanted him to feel better, and so I told him to bring his paper and give it to the branch president. And so then he was happy then, because he felt like he was part of that branch. And then the mission president found out, and he said, "What's this thing I hear about people bringing their papers to the church?" And I said, "Oh, we're just keeping them for them so they don't lose them." And so the mission president was really good to me. I think I tried his patience more than once. And Elder Andress told the mission president he couldn't keep me under control either. So it was a really fun experience to have those. We were there. Had only been in Kenya about maybe 2 months, I think, when that big tsunami hit Sri Lanka and had wiped everybody out there. And it had actually hit part of Kenya. It had hit Mombasa, and my poor children, because we hadn't figured out the email system and everything completely yet. And so we started getting some pretty anxious emails from kids that wanted to know where we were at, and because they had heard that the tsunami had hit part of Kenya. And so that was part of, just a lot of interesting things. We were in Kenya when Katrina hit Texas, and New Orleans, and we were really worried about our kids there. So I completely understand how they felt. We had a big film crew from the church show up in Kenya. Let's see, we got to Kenya in November, and in February this big film crew came, and they were filming all the a whole thing on Kenya and the people, and it was aired between the conference sessions. And so we were able to get in a little bit on that. I said I wrote in the email, I said we had a film crew from the church here. They were working on a segment that's to be aired between general conference sessions. I think this coming conference. You could tell by looking at them, and it was winter in Salt Lake. They were so sunburned when they left here, because they had come out of Salt Lake, and they were going straight into summer. I have one thing in the excuse me, one thing in my notes that talked about this little girl that we had, and I can't even remember this, so I'm glad we wrote it down, but it was this little girl that had gotten her father, she was a year old, and we got a call in the middle of the night from one of the branch presidents, and the father had come home drunk and had fallen, had picked the little girl up and then fallen on her and hurt her, and that we had picked, I guess we had gone to get them and took them to the hospital at like 2 a.m. I don't remember that specific thing, but I do remember my first impression of the hospital, and that's probably what took over, was that they had like three people in a bed. So they would have like an old man and a child and you know, all in the same bed, and they were the conditions were really really unsanitary, really bad, and I remember when I got a kidney infection from not going to the restroom enough, because I didn't want to go to what they called the chose, because it was a hole in the ground that you'd squat either side, and I just knew something was going to come out of there and get me. And so I would wait. I would wait, like I have like a 18-hour bladder. I can just wait. And so I would, and then I ended up with a kidney infection. And so I wrote home and I said to Nate, I said to Tiffany, I said, find out from Nate, because I don't even recognize all these medicines. I don't even recognize what they are. And so if he could kind of translate that to me and I would know what to buy. And Tiff said, maybe you should go to the doctor. I'm like, no, I'm not going to the doctor. They'll kill me faster than whatever I've got. So so I was not gonna do that. And then I found out that they had some medicine there that we should have here. I don't know why we don't have it, but man, that stuff would cure you so fast. And it's illegal here, but it did great for me. I tried to smuggle some of it back into the US when I came home. I've got a letter here from Kim to Paul. It's written to Elder Herm, from Elder Herm, and it was about toothpaste. I guess, Paul, did you send us toothpaste while we were over there?
Yeah,
Okay, because it's a whole thing on toothpaste and killing germs and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, that was kind of interesting to read back through that. Maybe we picked it up from you before we left. Is that maybe what happened? And then
he had sent us something else.
Okay.
It was I was using it for toothpaste, but it was a different product for ladies.
Oh, never mind. We're not even going to tell you that story. We are not telling you that story. So
there's a trailer waiting for Grandpa, I think.
there's somebody out there for you.
I think.
Did they come out?
No.
Okay.
They're just sitting out back with a trailer in the car.
Okay. All right. Well, we just, there were so many. I mean, this book is probably 2 inches thick, and there's so much of it. If I just open it up and stick my finger somewhere and start to read, I had, there was a girl named Stella who named her baby after me. They're just, we have several Andresses, several Marcies in Kenya. So hopefully we did you proud. I remember a story, the mission president, we got stopped once by some police officers, and the police officers, Kim paid him off because they were just wanting money, and so he paid them to let us go because they were threatening to, put us in jail and impound our truck, and then the mission president found out about it. He was really upset. He was like, you never do that. You just, and so then about 2 weeks later, the mission president got stopped, and he pulled out every stop he knew because he was telling them he was military and he was all this stuff, and they still were going to hold him, and he paid him off too. So we decided that it's a lot easier when you're sitting in a mission office to say don't pay those guys, or when they're standing there with a gun in your face, you're like, okay, here's your $5 and let us go. And
Just want to let you know.
They had built
Need to let you know who's outside your house.
Who is outside my house?
Well,
is that you, Clint?
Isn't that your house on my picture?
That
Yeah.
is. You're outside my house.
Yeah, we're outside your house.
Okay.
Better put the kids at ease. Let them know who's here.
Okay. All right. Yeah, they come in a couple times and said, "There's a trailer outside the house."
Come on in.
Anyway, the mission president, they built a brand new chapel in Nairobi, and it was completely finished, which was a feat in itself. And the furniture for the chapel was on the dock in Nairobi. It had been shipped in.
Tell Clinton to come in.
Anyway, we were the furniture was on the dock, and and so the authority, the company, or whoever was in charge of the docks, called the mission president and wanted something like $50,000 in it wanted like $50,000 in just money to give him the furniture that was. And he said, I can't. He said, the furniture's already paid for. And he said, well, we need another 50,000 for you to get it from us. And mission president was so mad because he knew it was going right into their pockets. And so he said, nope. He said, you can just keep it. And so in about 3 weeks later, the man called back and said, we'll take 20,000. And the mission president said no. And it kept going down and down. It took us 1.5 years to get that furniture off the dock. But we finally got it, and didn't cost us a dime. But we had this brand new chapel, and we had no piano, plastic chairs. It was just, the one thing that really surprised me when I was first there is they have these little chapels, and then they would have these libraries with these bank vault doors on them. I mean, the doors were like 6 inches thick. They had combination locks. They were all, and because they would come in and they would steal the televisions, and steal the VCRs, and steal the cassette recorders and the CD players. And so they had them locked up tight in the church. We had a few language barriers. I remember one time the guy was talking to me, and he was talking to me about all the different types of animals that were in this forest. And he kept mentioning a squirrel. And I kept saying, a what? And he said, a squirrel. And I said, I don't know what that is. And he said, oh, yes, you do. He said, we have all types of squirrels. We have ground squirrels and tree squirrels. And I said, oh, squirrels. You're talking about squirrels. And then one day this man came to Kim, and I should let him tell you the story, but he said, Elder Andrus, I need money. And he said, what for? And he says, I have deeps. And he said, you have what? And he said, deeps. And he said, I don't know what you're telling me. He said, what do you have? And he goes, deeps. He said, spell it. And he said, D-E-B-T-S. I have deeps. So he had debts that he needed to pay. He was wanting us to give him some money. I had the little guard that was at our compound who asked me for money when we first got there because his mother had died, and he wanted to go up to his mother's funeral, and he needed money. And so I, like the compassionate person that I was, just gave it to him. And then about the time we went home, he came to me and he said, Sister Andrus, I need money to go up country. My mother died. I said, again? She died again? And he was all embarrassed because he didn't know he'd already used that one on me. Anything else? Kim, you want to add anything to this? I feel like nope.
You did awesome.
No.
Your memory's better than mine.
Yeah. I remember, we had the 4-wheel drive pickup. We went clear up in the mountains and all kinds of crazy places with that 4-wheel drive. And then we were sitting in a meeting when Steve Snow, Elder Snow, said, if you people are using a 4-wheel drive to get to your meetings, not to get to your meetings. He said, if you people are using a 4-wheel drive, you're going places you shouldn't go. And I invited Elder and Sister Snow to come up and stay with us for a few weeks so they could see where we were going. They declined, which was wise on their part. I don't know what else we want to hear. Anybody have anything that they want to hear about, or?
It seems to me that you had some encounters with some of the native tribes. Can you remember any of that?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
We were still fairly new, and I guess we'd been there. We probably about halfway through, but I hope this is the one you're talking about. We got invited to this private ceremony that was supposed to be a real honor for white people to get invited to, because it was all done in the tribe, and it was kind of secret, and they didn't include us very often, or white people very often. And so we went there, and Kim, he was the keynote speaker, and he was supposed to speak to these young men. When we got there, I hope this is the one you're talking about, Louise. When we got there, it was a circumcision. It was a circumcision party. I mean, they were circumcising these like 6, 12, 14, I guess they were about 14-year-old men. And I was blown away. Kim did great. He gave them a lecture on chastity and sexual purity, and I gracefully declined every other offer we got to go to anything that I didn't know what it was after that.
Well, that's a good story.
Is
the
that
one
the one
I
you were
was
talking about?
No, but that was a good one. But I thought you said that you came face to face with somebody in one of the tribes that they were willing to run a spear through you if you upset them. You remember? I was probably
Oh, those, we had a lot of that. We, the Maasai's that lived down in the southern part of the country. Hey guys.
There's a Turkana lady up. We went up to Lodwar and on the Lake Turkana, and there's this lady that had 2 little kids there, and we stopped and bought some charcoal from her. She was selling, and I wanted to take a picture of her kids, and she pulled this big old spear out of her hair, and was gonna chase me away with that. And I said, no problem, we won't take any pictures. We got back in our truck and left. But I wanted a picture of her kids there. She had her gray clay on her face, and so that they were all, and she had them all dressed up with so much beads and stuff that was really, really ornate. It was really, really pretty cool looking. But I never did get a picture because she didn't want me to take a picture, so I didn't.
They had, they were famous for dipping the point of those spears in poison. And so just one good scratch could take you out. And so we were Kim kept saying, he lets on that he was just got back in the car, but he was after me the whole time. Did you get that picture? I'm like, no, I'm not going to take that picture. I don't want to die here. But
would have been an awesome picture. Oh, it would have been good.
It really was. They were adorable. They were all dressed up in that ceremonial, and they were only about 3 feet high each. They were just so cute, but not worth losing my life over.
And her with her spear in her hair.
Is that the one you were thinking about?
Probably so. Did you meet somebody on a trail? Did you meet some tribal people on a trail in the Kilimanjaro?
Oh yeah, I remember one day we were out looking for a member's home. We were going to this little out through the brush, and all of a sudden this little kid just came down the trail. He was just stark naked, and he was, the minute he saw us, he just stopped dead in his tracks and started to scream at the top of his lungs and
turn around and run the other way as fast as he could go.
Oh, he did. He wet himself and everything. And Kim started towards him. I'm like, don't, let's just stand right here. Don't move. And about that time, this mom comes running down the trail, and she looked at him and looked at us, and then she just started laughing. And I said, what's so funny? And she said, oh, this is partly my fault. She said, we tell them that if they are bad children, the white people will eat them. And he'd never seen a white person in his whole life. And then just to run onto us out on a trail, he was scared to death. But I thought, I think we use stories like that to our kids, except it wasn't.
Yeah, that's probably the one. That's a good one. Well, look at more of your emails and share more.
We had Elder Silcox that had been with us quite a while. Good elder from Salt Lake, and he got food poisoning and we had to air flight him to Nairobi. He was really sick, and he was sick for a while. And all of a sudden one day I get this email. I had let the elders use my email to email home because they didn't have any way of doing that from where the guys that worked there with us. And I got this email from this distraught mother who had not heard from her son in about a month, and she was scared to death. I'm like, so I filled her in on what was going on, that he was in the hospital in Nairobi, and the first Christmas we were there, this is cute. You know, I had been to the humanitarian part of like the DI, you know, where they make all the toys and the blankets and everything and send them out to third world countries. And I remember them making like these rag dolls, you know, out of the monkeys out of socks. You remember? You guys probably remember those, or the dolls that were just made out of rags. And I remember thinking, what a waste, you know, to make those toys and send them places. They probably cost more than they could, you know, make them for. When we got to Kenya, it was the first Christmas we were there, and somebody sent a box of toys and asked us if we would take them and give them to some children up there. So we took them to this orphanage that we knew of, and I was so excited, and I pulled this big old Cookie Monster stuffed animal out with the eyes that, you know, roll around, and oh, those little kids just went screaming from that room. They were just terrified, and because they'd never seen anything that was blue and purple and had eyes that rolled, and they laughed about how Sister Andress brought possessed demon toys to the orphanage and tried to, so there's reasons why they just give them rag dolls, I think. Do you want to, anything else? Can you think of anything?
Not offhand. Any questions?
We don't know what to ask because we don't know what you did.
Oh, we did everything.
Well, took me a minute to remember what you were talking about when talking about somebody. But I know we sent you, I think you got some cinnamon toothpaste, and you also had a feminine douche, and that's what you're using for toothpaste.
Yeah. That's what I was brushing my teeth with. That was the last Melaleuca toothpaste I had. But I think my teeth stayed good while I was there.
I think our email was your concern because it didn't taste right.
Yeah, well, it tastes like Melaleuca. It was okay.
Oh, I have a picture or an email here that I was just reading through that the branch president, he wasn't the branch president then, but he was after. His little wife was not active, and she and I became pretty good friends after a while. But we were at her house, and I had given her. She wouldn't go to church on Sunday because she made what they called samosas. So they were like little triangle, and they had meat and like cabbage and things in them, and she deep fried them and sold them to people in her neighborhood. And so I told her, she said she couldn't go to church because she had to make these samosas or her family wouldn't eat. And so I told her that if she would not make samosas on Sunday, that she would have more money and would be able to feed her family just fine if she would just not do it on Sunday. We left there, and Kim said to me, well, that was a little bold. And I told him that if I had to buy extra samosas, I would, so that she would be sure and have enough to take care of her family for the week. And and I didn't have to buy extra samosas, and she did make enough to take care of her family. And she turned out to be just the cutest little branch president's wife. She just wouldn't. She would not. She was pretty strict strict on rules, and she had testimony, and she made sure that things ran smoothly. And is that the way it is in most of the branch presidents? Their little wives make sure that everything runs smooth. Anyway, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, I could tell you, there's so many things that you talk for a minute, and I'll look through and see if I can find some more.
Thank you so much. It's really fun to hear your stories. I have a question. Have you stayed in touch with any of the people enough to know how the church is doing there currently?
Yeah, there's one branch president, Martin Dungu from Kitale. We still get a hold of him every now and then. I had some credit in Kenya on the phone, and I ran out. And I've been trying to call him here lately, but I haven't been able to get my phone to work on my cheap credit. But the last I knew, he said that they were getting ready to build a temple in Nairobi, but he didn't think they'd broken ground yet in Nairobi. Well, they might have by now. They broke ground here yesterday for our temple. So I don't know what the status is on the building of the temple, but the church is growing faster down where we were because we got rid of all of the polygamy when we were down there, or most of it. And so then the church has been growing better, he says. And the old influence of the people that were not very good saints has gone away, and the church is getting stronger in Kitale. And they're building a chapel there next to Kitale. So they are getting a new chapel up there about 5 miles from where we lived. And that's a great thing for them to get a chapel. That's a big item. They get a new building, and then the church grows fast because everybody wants to go to the new big church.
So Kim, you now live
But,
on
the
East
church
Temple,
is-
huh?
Yeah,
You live on East Temple now?
yeah. They haven't changed the sign, but when they get the temple built, they don't change it. I'll go out there and put up a sign. It says East Temple. It just says 3210 East on the sign, but it's confusing because we're right on the border of Washington and St. George city limit, and so they got two different addresses. People are always confused what it really is. They got two different east addresses.
Here's kind of an interesting one. The email, the prophet was coming to Nairobi. Who would it have been? Who was the prophet? And all you historians, who was the prophet in 2005?
Jordan B. Hinckley.
Anybody know?
I think
Yeah,
Kim's
it
right. I
was
think it was
Hinckley.
Hinckley. Oh.
It was Hinckley. He said, we didn't, I wrote, this was an email to Drew. I said that we didn't get to see the prophet, but some of the people from here went, and we got a report. The public relations missionary, and we're Sudweeks, we're getting everything ready, and they sent a picture of the prophet to the newspaper, who wouldn't print the article or the picture because the picture didn't have a date stamped on it. And they said it was impossible that prophet was 95 years old. So Salt Lake sent a new picture stamped with the date where he looked younger than he did in the first picture, and the newspaper, Nairobi newspaper, ran the article. Then we got a 25-year-old branch president who went to see the prophet, and he was wanting us to send him some money because he got arrested while he was in Nairobi because he was he was urinating, public urination. You can't do that in town. There used to be an upcountry.
He thought he was in the jungle and it was in the park. So we had to go get him bailed out of jail so he could go see the prophet.
Yeah, you kind of get a feeling, don't you, for what it was like?
Pretty interesting.
It was a whole different world. It was, I know when we first got there, I remember, I think I told you last week that the one thing that I was scared to death of, the one thing that I didn't want to do was go to an Arizona Indian mission. I had grown up, did I tell you this last week? I'd grown up with the Indians. I knew the crazy traditions and the crazy, and I did not want to go to an Arizona Indian mission. And we got to Kenya and I realized that we had Arizona Indian mission on steroids. It was just everything I was afraid of. I got plus 1,000. So
American Indians are civilized today.
it's not enough. You can't even think where you don't want to go because you'll end up with that. You guys probably did. You guys though, the faces I'm looking at, I'm like, you went on your missions, Paul, New Zealand, and wasn't it New Zealand? Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're civilized there.
They're not like Kenya.
No.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad we went when we did. We were pretty young. I was 48 and Kim was 53, and we thought we couldn't figure out why they kept calling us kids while we were there. But now looking back, I've got it figured out. But I am so glad we went when we did. Things have taken different turns than we had expected at this point in our lives. And not sure I'm so glad we went when we were younger.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've given us an awesome report. Is there anything else you want to share?
I told you the story about the guy that was walking for hours to hear the lessons, and then he was upset when he didn't get confirmed. I says, "Why are you so upset when we didn't come and confirm you at church that day?" He says, "Because he prayed about it. He'd been praying, and he said he would know it was the true church when they laid their hands on your head and give them the Holy Ghost." And we didn't do that. So he wanted to be sure we did that, because that was the whole answer to his prayer, was we would do that. And so the next Sunday we went to his branch and did that. That's how he knew that the church was true, is because we did the laying on of hands for the Holy Ghost. And that was the answer to his prayer. So if we hadn't done that, well, he'd been upset at us.
Well, very good. Anything else?
Not that I can think of right off.
Well, I appreciate you being willing to do part 2. It's been very interesting. Thanks a lot for that. Anybody have anything else they want to say or ask? Okay, well, we are just kind of at the top of the hour, a little past. We don't have anything for sure for next week. We've had a suggestion that we